Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good experience at the PSNA Star Leadership Institute this year. My name's Rob Stahl, and I'm a nursing supervisor at Paoli Hospital in Paoli, Pennsylvania. Anyone who was at last year's institute at the Desmond was about a half a mile away from Paoli Hospital. We are part of Mainline Health, which consists of Paoli Hospital, Bryn Mawr Hospital, Lankenau Hospital, Riddle Hospital, Bryn Mawr Rehab, the Miramont Treatment Center, and we have Urgent Care Center as well. I do want to apologize that I wasn't able to be there physically today. I was really looking forward to it, but I had a little bit of a scheduling conflict that's preventing me from getting there, so I guess we'll do it this way. I did feel the need to include a picture of myself so everyone can see who's talking. So here you go. This is what I look like at 3 o'clock in the morning. A little bit about me. I've been a nurse for 10 years, actually 11 years. I've worked pretty much that whole time in emergency and critical care. But throughout my 10 years, I've basically picked up in every department that would let me pick up time. So I've worked in med-surg, telemetry, step down. We have a tele-oncology unit, cath lab, radiology. I've been everywhere. And then for about the last 3 years, I've been supervising. So when I was asked if I would be interested in presenting my project from last year at this year's institute, I was asked why I chose the project that I did, and I would say that these three things were kind of the most important things for me when choosing my project. Was a problem that already exists in my work environment, so something that I have a vested interest in. And having worked both in the emergency room and on the inpatient side, you'll see in a second, my project really was geared towards patient flow, so I did have a vested interest in that. And is progress measurable? I knew that with applying an intervention within the emergency department, I was going to be able to pull data that we had already been collecting for other reasons. So I knew I was going to be able to get some markers for what our times were. And then moving forward, I was still going to have access to those times. So I was going to be able to see if we were making progress or not. And then number three, was the goal reachable with the resources that we had? Paoli actually started a whole committee made up of nurses, techs, physicians, and mid-levels, all planning committee to get this going. So we did have a lot of resources involved in this. So now we can take a look at part of my presentation from last year, get an idea of what our goal was. I worked with our ER to transition their layout kind of from a traditional acute and fast track ER to a rapid evaluation unit in order to improve patient wait times across the board in the emergency room. Patients hate waiting, and with HCAPS having more influence on reimbursement, this was going to be a high priority anyway. So I knew that going into this was going to be a hot topic. So this was perfect timing. So years ago, sort of the new thing was these fast tracks were popping up everywhere. You saw all these billboards with emergency departments saying, oh, we'll get you in and out if you just have something minor that needs quick treatment. But recently, nowadays, even the fast tracks are starting to get overcrowded and bogged down, and they're backflowing out into the waiting room. So you have this problem where a lot of times, the fast tracks in emergency rooms are only open certain times. or the fast track may be super busy because everything that comes in the door is a minor injury, so nothing's going on the other side. Or it's the opposite. Everyone that comes in is extremely sick and goes to the acute side, and fast track staff is twiddling their thumbs. So the overall goal is to just improve the efficiency of utilizing all of the staff all of the time. And so we looked at a ton of numbers associated with the flow throughout the department. However, the key markers that we were looking at were door to provider, door to disposition, door to the nursing floor if they were being admitted, and door to door again for people who were being treated and released. And so essentially what we're looking at there is, are they sick? Are they not sick? Are they staying? Are they going? And how long did it take for each one of those? So we'll look at some numbers where I compared us to our sister hospitals. Riddle was recently acquired by Mainline Health at the time, and they were charting in a different system. So for the sake of accuracy, I left them out of this. So you can see it's pretty obvious that Lankenau is right on the city line, and they see probably a little more than double our volume on a given day. So their times kind of made ours look great from the get-go, but we still wanted to improve ours. Bryn Mawr Hospital, right there alongside of us for most of the trends that you're going to see, was relatively the same size as us and sees about the same volume. And so door to provider, here we are sitting right about an average of 33 minutes. And so for disposition time for an admission, we're looking at about 2.5 hours to get a dispo with a bed request for an admission. And again, Lankenau above us, right about even with Bryn Mawr. So that was for an admission. Our disposition time for a treat and release patient was about 1 hour and 45 minutes across the board. And then so from the disposition to the nursing floor for an admission, you're looking at an additional 2.5 hours. So again, that is in addition to the door to disposition time. So that's literally after we've decided we're keeping you, it takes us 2.5 hours to get you up to the floor. Whereas if we've made a disposition that you are going home, we have you out the door in under a half an hour, 25 minutes to a half an hour. And then so this is just a cumulative, so like I said, adding basically from the door to the nursing floor or from the door to home or out the door again. So what is it that we changed? Well, the old way, our old layout, and most ER's old layout, is you have a nurse in triage, nurse, mid-level, and tech in the fast track area. And then on the acute side, we had 9 nurses, 3 techs, and 2 physicians most of the time, and two mid-level providers. What we aimed to do was move a nurse, mid-level, and tech into the triage area. Really wouldn't be called triage at this point because this was where treatment began. We kind of phased out the triage area and used that as an initial treatment area. You still, when you came through here, if you were a high acuity patient, you bump straight from that front area right over to the acute side. Everything else kind of works through the process of the rapid evaluation unit to make a decision as to whether or not you stay or go. So over in that holding area, another nurse, tech, And then on the acute side, for patients who have, had one round of pain medicine, an x-ray, things aren't progressing, we move them over to an internal disposition area where we're trying to make that decision of whether or not you're staying or going. So if you've taken up kind of too much time on the other side and we still don't have a grasp on what we're going to do with you, there was a 5-bed internal disposition area on the acute side. And so, yeah, otherwise the acute side was unchanged. So key principles to make this work were that the staff were going to flex to the busiest area. Like I was saying before, it's terrible to have one side be extremely busy and the other side has nothing going on. With the way that this layout worked, everyone could kind of see what area was busiest, and the help went there. And so the patients were continuously moving. There were very specific waiting areas for very specific things. If you were waiting for an x-ray, there was a waiting area just for x-rays. Waiting for a splint, waiting area just for splints. So patients were constantly moved to the next step in a fashion to keep them, as soon as you arrive in the waiting area for your x-rays, you should be going for those x-rays within 5 or 10 minutes, and then you're on to the next step. Not everyone needs a bed. That was one of our main concerns. When you had fast track blowing up and there's 10 people waiting to get into fast track with these minor injuries, you're waiting for someone with a broken pinky to get into a room with a stretcher that they don't need. So now we had an area that we could put 5 people with broken pinkies in the same room waiting for x-rays. Did it work? We actually did have a 10 to 15% improvement on all times. It really did come together, and our times did improve. The least improvement that was noted, obviously, was the door to floor and dispo to floor times. We ran into some other issues with bed flow, late discharges on the inpatient side. So, as beds were opening up later in the day, we kind of had a backlog of people in the ER waiting for people to be discharged and beds to be cleaned. So that's not really something that the ER can fix, but it did definitely affect our times. But even with the 10 to 15% improvement in times, it came with a price. There was a lot more handoff this way, a lot more, frustration among the staff with all of that movement and handoff. So the staff was frustrated, constantly having to go back and update other staff members. Some treatments, were getting delayed because of too much handoff. So all in all, we have actually kind of gone back, not necessarily to the old way, but kind of a hybrid between the two ways. And so that's where we're at. I'm really sorry that I'm not there. I know this was kind of the tip of the iceberg, and there are a lot of things that I couldn't totally touch on. And I know a lot of people probably have a lot of questions. There was a lot more to this. So by all means, if anyone has any questions, please contact me. My email's here. I'm sorry that I'm not there right now to answer anyone's questions, but if you have questions right now, write them down, write my email down, and contact me. And again, I hope everyone's having a good experience. I know I had a good time at the Star Leadership Institute, and good luck to everyone. Thank you.